You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast.
People always make fun because of the way I look. I thought if you couldn't see my face, then maybe you would want to be my friend. Oh, silly old Pennywise, you'll never have an old friend.
People make fun of me too.
They do?
Because of this.
Isn't that silly? Oh, that little thing. Oh, I can blow that thing right away.
You could?
Oh, yes. One poof, and it'd be gone. You would have to get close enough to see my face. I don't know, Ricky.
No, it's okay. I won't make fun. I promise.
Promise. Okie dokie. Just come on in a little closer, and we'll...
Supposed to say 3.
Hello, welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to dissect and discuss horror films, both old and new. Throughout the course of this current year, we've been chipping away ever so slowly at the best of horror movies as voted by you for every year of this current decade, actually. And we've been kind of trucking through this, and we just are now bowing out with the very, very last of them, which is looking at the best horror movie for 2019. And those with you with keen eyes would know that the result of that, and the winner as voted by you, was It Chapter 2. Interesting one, that too, because it also won out for the best horror movie in 2017 for the first installment. So a bit of a big one, this, all over the place. And it was a bit of a tight run thing. But before I kind of run through the top 10 that was in our list for the poll, I should introduce myself. I'm the lead surgeon and host of the podcast series. My name is Saul Muerte, and joining me alongside this podcast is the delightful Richard Lovegrove. Welcome aboard, sir.
Oh, hello.
Oh, you've gone all Irish on us.
Oh, I was thinking I was a jolly German.
Oh, you.
Oh, well, I'm sitting here in my clown makeup all ready to go.
Yeah, you are actually. And you are very method when it comes to the podcasting.
Well, cutting my face.
Yeah, with the slits down the face. I saw you do that earlier. I was thought, a bit premature. We haven't started recording yet. But it's good to have you here. And also because... more so because we, along with some of the other surgeons, went to go and see the first part of this film, It, way back in 2017. And we were all kind of keen-eyed ahead of this. We'd all, prior to that, done a bit of a surgeon's commentary on the Tim Curry It miniseries as well.
Yeah.
And we did come out with various thoughts on that, which Ant and I kind of discussed in the last podcast that we did of It. But we're opening a door for you now as well to come on board, and to discuss and add your thoughts to the mix. And I guess before we kind of cut through the butter, as it were, and dissect and discuss this bad beast, it's probably fair that I should kind of run down the top 10 that I posted out there. And for those that aren't in the know, I kind of cherry pick these a little bit. I kind of base it not on my own taste. Some of it in there is, but I try and get a bit of a gauge of how the year's gone, to make it as a popular kind of vote as possible, I guess. To see who comes out in the mix. So the other ones that were in there, we had the bad superhero movie, Brightburn, which I don't mean bad as in bad that it was shit. I just mean the evil superhero, I should say.
Oh, yeah.
Movie Brightburn. Did you ever catch that one, mate? Or
No, I'm just having a gander at what it was.
Yeah. So while you're doing that,
I did see a poster for it.
Yeah, it was kind of like the origins of Superman gone wrong, essentially.
In a chronicle-esque sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and look, some people out there were raving it and dug it, and there were other people saying it wasn't really horror. I kind of enjoyed it, but did I think it was great? No, like it was okay. It was a good movie. I'd recommend it. Definitely would recommend it.
Great.
And the kills in it are pretty gruesome from memory as well. So, and that's why it was in the top 10. Next, alongside that, was a film called Cruel, which was basically the crocodile's answer to, or alligator's answer. Which one were they? Crocodile and alligator. I don't know. Let's take a look at their snout. Can't remember now, but it's basically that answer to Jaws, essentially. But they were out with a frenzy. Now,
another one we had, what was it, Lake Placid before? And there was
it's a bit of
another one that was up north.
Now, look, I threw this in there. I kind of like this. This was a bit of a pleasant surprise for me. Is it really horror? Not so much, more probably a thriller. But
yeah, well, I guess
it was a fun film, and
I always put these films up to like Anaconda sort of standards.
Yeah.
Would that be a horror film, or would that be a thriller, or what would that be? It's sort of like an extreme adventure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Actually, extreme adventure, because it kind of is. It stretches the believability, but if you allow yourself to be stretched along with that film, then it's kind of fun. It's a good ride. There was a few lovers of that one. Now, this third one that was in the mix was admittedly one of my favourites that I put in there, and it's a bit of a lesser known movie, but it was in my top 3, and I'd be remiss if I wasn't to put it in. And it was a film called Daniel Isn't Real, and I highly recommend it. It's a very kind of bit of a psychedelic, psychological thriller with some horror elements thrown in a mix. And I really dug it. I think it deserves a bit more praise than it did. And as I said, I threw it in there, but it didn't. I guess because it wasn't as known, it didn't get as much love as some of the other films that were in the mix.
Yeah,
coming out.
It's good to see those in there.
Yeah. I see, that was an indication of where I did play a little bit of a hand in that. And we're going to come to some one of the movies I omitted as well before I get to the end of the list, but I'll come to that as we get to the end. In there too was Dr. Sleep, another Stephen King film, and I know that you and I both went to see that movie. You had yourself put it in your top 3 of the year as well. Do you still stand by that, sir?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It was. There were a lot of horror films that came out this year, but none that really sort of got me into an interesting, lingers with me sort of thing. And that stayed in my head. Specifically one scene.
Yes.
But yeah.
And if those want to know more about that, can go check out our podcast discussion of.
Precisely, yes. It's a good reason to go back.
But yeah, look, I was the same. It's one of those movies, and I was just kind of looking back at some of this year, and there's a handful of them that I would definitely watch again, and I would watch again. And this was definitely one of those. So it didn't actually make my top 3. But it was damn close. So I kind of I'll talk about one of the other ones that was in there too in a second. But yeah, I really dug it. I thought it was a good movie. And it was just I guess it goes to highlight how strong this year was. And how diverse it was, because the next one was the sequel, Happy Death Day to You, which was another good fun film. It kind of strayed a little bit further away from the horror element and was more sci-fi. I kind of preferred it than I did to the original. But it was a good movie. Had a few lovers out there. But was nowhere near the kind of the front runners that some of the others were. Dr. Sleep, by the way, was one of those big ones. We have obviously It Chapter 2, which we know has one hands down. And then coming up, and this was a bit of a close run thing as well. This was slightly off the mark from the top 3. Was Midsummer, and this was one of my favourite movies of the year. And it was Ari Aster's kind of follow-up to Hereditary. And I dug the visuals. I dug the catharticism of exploring grief and the impact that it has on us. And yes, it's done to the extreme, but I was happy to go on that ride with Astor and see as he was telling that story. I know there were a few naysayers. I said it's a bit of a carbon copy of The Wicker Man, but you know, I get it, but I kind of felt it was original enough in its own right, and deserved to be in the top 3 that I gave anyway.
It was intense.
Yeah,
I haven't seen one of those ones where I think I've got to sit down with like, you know, a cup of brandy and go, okay, let's do this.
Yes. And I have yet to. I was going to. And this is just showing how busy I've been, but I was going to try and watch the director's cut before the end of the year, and write up a little bit of a review, because I actually haven't written a review for this one, which it was one of those ones that sits with you, and it sits with you, and it had a big impact on me, and I've yet to find the words that can surmount or express how I felt through that, which is interesting. Bowing out the rest of the movies, we had Ready or Not, and this one also, a bit like Doctor Sleep, was kind of a bit of a could easily have gone into my top 3. It's a fun movie, and I do recommend if you want to have a bit of a laugh and watch.
Of course.
Have you caught it at all, Richard? This one?
Samara Weaving. I caught a trailer for this before one of the other horror films we saw.
Yeah.
And I was very intrigued by it. Love these sort of like, especially it's an old house and there's like, you know, a gang, I guess. It's a fun movie again, and that's the thing. I know there's a lot of these movies that crept in the top 10 that have a lot of fun going on, and that's kind of good to see that balance of horror and kind of and joyety and jovial kind of. that's I don't know what I'm talking about. It's late at night. Exactly.
We're late at night.
I think she was in a film either in 2018 or 2017 with the guy from Walking Dead, Stephen Young or something, I think his name was. And it was called Madness or something like this. They were in offices and it was something like an anger virus or something goes through and they start having to hack each other open and stuff. But
I know the one you mean, and I haven't seen it. Mayhem. It was called Mayhem.
Mayhem, that's it.
Yeah, and I want to see it, and I just realised it had gone off my radar until you just brought it up. So thank you, because it'll come back on my radar again.
It's a good one.
Yeah, cool. All right, so the last couple two, and I know you went to see this one, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Yes,
that was in there. Didn't get as much love as the others, which I guess is a bit understandable. But I felt
but the monsters were good. It was it looked good, and it was just sort of
yeah. That's right. And again, I actually, this one surprised me. I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. So that was kind of a bit of an interesting. Yeah.
That's the sort of thing with a negative review. I think that a lot of the time it's just the negative taken away from it. It's just like, it still looks good. So like, the characters, the performances were still good in it. Yeah. And a lot of innovative ideas. It just feels like it was that, I don't know, another edit away.
Yes, you're probably right. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last one to round out, which is in our top 10, was Us, the Jordan Peele sophomore film. And I liked this movie. I don't think it was anywhere near as good as Get Out, but Get Out was a bit of a high kind of bar to set yourself for a debut feature. Us is still a solid film. It's just, I just wanted it to be that little bit more. I haven't seen Us, but keen to. No, do it. Seriously, do it, because it's still a solid film. And it has. It looks amazing. Yeah. So, so that rounds out our top 10. Now, I did say I omitted a movie, and I did get some kind of a bit of hate out there for No, just going chicka chicka. It was Child's Play, the remake. And
and I noticed there was a few people who were mentioning it, and I kind of said, yeah, look, it didn't make the cut, and I just left it as that. I was being polite, but this is the
Podcast, and the reason and I'm going to be quite frank about it, and the reason I didn't put it in there is because it's shit.
Yes, it's awful.
And so yeah, all right. I appreciate that there's some lovers out there, but this again, hold my hands up and admit that that's why I didn't put it in there in that top 10, because I hated it. I thought it was a woeful reimagining of the original film.
It's one of these things is not like the other.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I think there were a bunch of others that I kind of didn't mention as well, and I can't remember them off the top of my head. But, for the sake of this thing, I noticed that before, when I started doing the polls, there was a lot more than 10. And people just find it hard to kind of vote. That many. So I have to be quite selective and round it out as a top 10. So, you may have enjoyed other films more than the ones that are in there, and I apologize for that, but I had to kind of be selective, as I said. With all that said and done, we're now going to talk about the winner, which was It Chapter 2, the follow-up from the first film.
Yeah.
Now, before we dissect and discuss, can you cast your mind back to 2017 and your initial reaction to the first installment?
Yeah. I was really excited.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of the miniseries, saw it as a kid, and was traumatized by certain scenes, and then came to love the brilliance of Tim Curry and adore the movie.
Yes.
So then to see a new interpretation that was sort of given a bit more of a leaning towards our feel was fun, was good, and again it was better than the miniseries because again you're allowed to see more gore in this. It was like a different sort of audience it was going for. It wasn't TV, it's a movie. So yeah, to see it fulfilling on the big screen was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree, and my big take from it was there was a couple of things. Like, firstly, actually, what was your thoughts of Bill as Pennywise and his interpretation?
This is me back in 2017.
Yeah, back in 2017. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Love Bill Skarsgård's performance of it.
I see
the amount of it in the first part it felt like it was just more because it kept us wanting more.
Yeah.
But there's certain scenes like when he first traumatizes Eddie after he's broken his arm and he comes out of the fridge and he's coming towards them, and the way they defeat him in that scene is very good, and the way it plays out,
I enjoyed that one.
Very good. It's had a very good pace in the first film because I guess they were still sort of proving to an audience how they could, remake a film that got so much flack.
Yeah. So
and it was still Finn Wolfhard in his early days, so there was a lot of giving there.
And now he's in everything.
Yes.
So here's the thing. So I kind of enjoyed his performance too. I still didn't think it kind of was. I don't know whether this was the nostalgic element in me, but I still didn't think it was a par on Tim Curry's version. But then, Tim Curry haunted me with his interpretation. And I was at that right age. Like I was at the age when the miniseries came out. I was the same age as the kids that are in that. So I kind of was beautifully married along with that journey. So that journey was very different. Having said that, I did kind of enjoy Bill's interpretation of Pennywise. Despite that, I didn't find it as scary, but I really loved the kids in it. I thought it was a great coming of age story, which Stephen King's very good at doing. They handled that. The director Andy Muschietti handled all that element really well. It's just the scare factor wasn't quite there for me.
It was teeming with a Stand By Me vibe.
It was, and I enjoyed all of that side of it. 100% hands down, I love that side of it. And that
carries over in the second one. It's very strong, especially with Bill's character. Bill.
Bill, yeah, James McAvoy taking on the role of Bill. And maybe we'll touch on that because I 100% agree with you too. I when I rewatched it just ahead of the podcast of this recording, I realized how much it's actually quite an enjoyable film. and a lot of that is to do with the cast that's in it, and the way. And I remembered having slight reservations beforehand. I dug James McAvoy as the cast as Bill beforehand, and I questioned Jessica Chastain in the role. I had a feeling she was going to get it only because of her relationship with Andy Muschietti from working with him before in Mama. And I kind of was like, yeah, actors tend to gravitate and directors gravitate to each other. I kind of felt like Amy Adams would have been a better role.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would have been very interesting.
Only because she
Whether or not some of her A-list sort of feels.
Yeah, exactly. I
McAvoy.
just felt like she had more of the right look. But having said that, when I rewatched it this time around, I started to dig Jessica Chastain's performance a lot more this time. But maybe I wasn't so clouded with my prejudice of that. But she's a great actress, and I just, as I was rewatching, I was like, yeah, she does start. She owns the role. Definitely owns.
Yeah.
The role.
So get Frances Conroy in there, the woman from 6 Feet Under.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, yeah, exactly. I thought that she did a very good role. I actually thought it was the woman from Jurassic World.
Her name. Oh my God! Hold on, Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now you've thrown me.
Now I'll find out who that is. Bryce Dallas Howard.
Oh, thank you. Yes,
I knew that she was
I was just having a massive mind blank. Then I could see her face, and I was like, I can't think of her name.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. So no, she was someone else that was bandied around. And I guess, look, there's only a few redheaded.
She's another female actress.
Like A-list redheaded actors.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Then obviously we had I like the and I'm talking like these. This is my reaction pre-watching the movie, but I liked the casting of Bill Hader as Richie. I thought it needed that comical kind of touch. Considering the character of Beep Beep Richie was a comedian, and I thought that was kind of good. And Isaiah Mustafa, the Mr. Spice man, Old Spice, as
I'm on a horse.
I wasn't sure about that one, but
I was happy to roll with it. Surprised by the role or casting of Jay Ryan as Ben Hanscom.
Yeah, the Aussie.
Aussie, technology, NA. Well, although technically a New Zealander, but we always claim to those, don't we?
Yeah. Technically, still part of New South Wales, they are.
that's right. But because he was on Neighbours in like the early 2000s, so he's kind of as Aussie as you get once you do that.
Exactly, we claimed him not by that.
But yeah, other than that, he was a bit of I wasn't sure about how they were going to go with that. I can't remember who I had someone in mind and I know a lot of people kept banding around Chris Pratt because
oh god, yeah,
beforehand, but I don't know.
Because he was fat.
Yeah, but that's why they were playing with him, and I was like, I don't know if that's necessarily the reason why you should cast him in the role. But yeah, there you go. And I reserve my judgment on all of the performances, and I know, except obviously I mentioned Jessica, but until the end. But obviously, rounding out the last of them was James Ransom as Eddie Hasbrouck, who looks a lot like the kid who played him, Jack Dylan Grazer, the young version of him, which was kind of interesting. And James Ransom, I only really know from the Sinister series from prior to that.
I have no idea who the hell he was, but they definitely made every scene of his very comedic.
Yes. Oh, yes. He was definitely interestingly considering, and with Bill's character, Richie, was elements where probably was the most dramatic. Yeah. And played along with a lot of the heartstring moments, came through his performance. which was interesting.
Yeah. Well, he's built through Bill Hader. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then the round out the 7 is Stanley, and we don't obviously get to see him as much, but it is Andy Bean who plays Stanley.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the cast that's obviously there. Obviously, we've got Bill Skarsgård coming back to play Pennywise as well, and we'll cast our thoughts and views of him as we go through the mix as well. So without further ado, let's start dissecting and discussing the movie, and then we'll pause just before the end of the podcast to just cast our view as to whether or not it deserves the mantle of Best Horror Movie 2019. Okay, so as we said, that this is the sequel to the 2017 film, and it opens in 1989. And we kind of get the climax, so it's a bit of an overlap of when the younger kids had originally beaten Pennywise, and they're on that bank and they have their kind of like, you know, blood pact moment. Just to kind of bring us back into it, that it were to come back, they would come back again themselves to fight the Pennywise the clown.
Yeah.
Just a reminder of that, and it kind of also, as the audience, gave us a refresh of the young kids as well, because prior to that, we were kind of told that there would be interspersed with not just the older actors, but there'll be kind of flashbacks as well, so the younger kids would be returning in various stages along the way.
In digital forms
with their super glasses in some cases,
and voiceovers and ADR.
Yep. And so 27 years later, we're in 2016 and we are back in Derry. We are introduced to a gay couple at a carnival. So we have Adrian and Don. One of them is a resident of Derry, and the other one is just his partner who's come along to kind of celebrate the carnival with him, just kind of hang out. They end up kind of getting harassed by these kind of homophobic thugs.
Well, if I may, if we go back right at the beginning, when they're squirting water in a carnival game into a clown's mouth to expand a balloon on his head, which I guess is foreshadowing. I don't know. He wins one of them. I'm not too sure. Maybe let's say Adrian. I don't know. He wins, and he gets a prize, and then he hands it to the girl who's next to him. Yeah. Now, when I watched it again, I didn't realize this the first time, but that's the little girl with the birthmark on the side.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know that.
She would be the second victim. So again, talking of foreshadowing, we're seeing the first victim pass a prize on to the second victim.
Wait a minute. So is this supposed to be in 1989?
This is now in 2016.
I was about to say good because, otherwise, how old is this kid when she gets eaten later on? Anyway, but if you're listening to this, I'm assuming...
You're so young!
Exactly. But then he gives it to her and says, thank you for letting me win. Thank you for going easy on me.
Yeah.
And she's just like, but I was just like, I recently was reading a thing about character studies and how to write a character. Yeah. And the idea of the hero arc of being altruistic in the first, like if you have to show them really quickly and you want to either have something like gruesome happen to them and feel really sorry for them, whatever, the more altruistic you can make them, the more sorry we're going to feel for them. Obviously.
Yes.
But so he does this and then they walk away and they're obviously a sweet couple and they're wearing a hat that says, I love Derry, and it's shaped like a beaver. Ironic because they're gay. But then walk away and get harassed by one of the ugliest things. I don't know if it's male or female or...
but the little dude.
But it's like a rat type thing, like, oily hair and pimples and I'm not going to shame it because it's like, the end of this film is pretty much like bullying saves the day anyway. But then they get unpleasantly insulted by these people for pretty much being gay.
Yes, that's
told out to get out of that carnival.
And this scene does happen in the book. I remember it from in the book. I mean, obviously word for word, but that a gay couple get kind of attacked, and then the aftermath of then getting attacked again, which we will come to in a little bit. And this is the thing I found
Sure, it deviates slightly, but I found that this particular version kept quite faithful to the book in places, and I thought that was interesting choice.
You think more so than the first part?
Yeah, I felt like it did.
Good.
And I guess that as I was watching it, I felt like I enjoyed that road a little bit more because of that. I mean, like, look, it does take big leaps and changes at certain points, but where it does stick true, it stays quite true.
Yeah. Interesting too that because they have that the new scene in the carnival mirror maze. So it's interesting to think that it's also pays more homage to the book than the first one.
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to mention that when we got down there. So but yeah, I'm glad you're saying it now, and we'll talk about it when we get to it.
Yes.
But
spoilers again.
Spoilers. What a fears you say.
He's got spoilers on my car.
So interestingly, the guy, one of the kind of, I guess, the lead bully, not the little rat-faced one that you were talking about, but the more
the one wearing Meg Ryan's wig.
The one wearing Meg Ryan's wig is actually a guy called Jack Weary, and he crops up in It Follows.
Oh, really?
As Hugh or Jeff. Which one was he?
So he follows it. I mean, It Follows.
Yeah, It Follows. Yeah. But yeah, so and he cropped up in Pretty Little Liars as well. So he's kind of one of those faces that people might know.
Nice.
And that bugged me because the second time I didn't notice it the first time around, but when I watched the second time around, I went, I know your face. How do I know you? But yeah, so they kind of really go to town on the non-resident of the gay couple.
Yeah.
And really kind of lay into him and throw him off into the
I don't know. On the second watch, I found this important. They put the beaver hat back on his head.
Yeah.
Like they make a little bit of a thing of saying, no, put it back on his head, and then throw him over and say, welcome to Derry.
Yeah.
And it really does set up the whole idea of going, everyone in this town is a cunt. Like, it's like, maybe not everybody, but like, definitely this is a place where people are going to turn a blind eye to this happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, get away with throwing them over into the water.
But he survives that, which is good.
He survives. Yeah, he survives the fall, and she's struggling to stay afloat. And the other dude who's also been badly beaten, he kind of goes down to try and find him. And as Adrian is kind of feeling like he's about to drown, he sees like a figure on the side who pulls him out of the water. But lo and behold, it's Pennywise. And he grabs Adrian, and Don then kind of is on the other side of the river, and he kind of looks on aghast as then CGI moment with huge jaws and chomp, chomp, chomp scenario. Yeah.
Rips out his chest. Chunks of his fleshy chest bits and gnaws on them.
Yeah, and then
just that it does linger on that a little bit, and then it gets overtaken with balloons, which are coming down from underneath the bridge.
Yeah, and are we led to believe that something happens to Adrian too? Not Adrian, sorry, the other dude, Don.
Don, I didn't get that impression.
Okay.
I thought it was just a cut because I thought it was just more like
cool.
But I don't know. Does the book say anything? I assumed he got the cops.
I think that's what happens. I think I'm trying to remember now. I think he does. I think it's just the one guy that gets kind of attacked by Pennywise, and he basically gets pulled down into the sewers essentially, so we don't see him again.
Yeah, that would have been interesting to see.
Yeah. But then we get a news report, and we're introduced to the first of our losers as they are 27 years older, and that's Mike, who has been the only one who has stayed in Derry all this time. Overhears a report, as I said, using one of his monthly scanner thing that he kind of listens in on, and he turns
in
up
his creepy little attic, the library.
I like living here.
This version of Mike is definitely portrayed more creepy than the miniseries.
Yeah, there's something odd about him, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like, even like, I mean, they play on it a lot later on, and I guess we'll get to that as the story unfolds. But I even then, like, as I was watching it in the climax of the movie, like, there's points where he becomes the leader of the group more so than Bill.
Yeah.
Which I found interesting choice to do story-wise, because the book and the miniseries, it's very clear that Bill's the leader and always is, so there's no deviation of that. So I found that was an interesting directorial choice.
Yeah, this film definitely felt like it was a lot more sort of all over the shop, as in like every man for themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, whereas in the first one, there was even scenes when I was watching it, I was comparing it to the miniseries, the scene where Ben and Bev have that moment where in the miniseries they kiss, and then it's Tim Curry saying "kiss me again, fat boy," and yeah, exactly. And I remember the horror of that scene being he had just like the same as in The Shining. I think I saw this before I saw The Shining. But the idea of going that he had already kissed that person passionately, and then to pull away and say, "Oh, I've actually kissed the terrifying, scary thing."
Yes.
And to see it's like, it's lipstick smudged, like, just that sort of stuff. But then later on, to couple that up too, because they're all in this that little hotel motorhome thing that felt very 90s or whatever. Because it was so stark and real. Then when you had that moment when she confronts him and goes to kiss him again, you really feel like, is this real life or is it not? Because this feels exactly the same way the first time.
Yes.
Yeah, whereas this time it was very obvious something was going to lead into it. But even when we're seeing these flashbacks, I know we're still on Mike, but I was hoping to see in a lot of the flashbacks of their corporate stuff, Pennywise messing with them in that sort of a way. Every time when they went, I remember this, like Bill gets the pain in his hand. She vomits, but it would have been interesting to see, in the audience, someone who looks like Pennywise or wearing a clown outfit or someone with a red balloon just makes him stop.
Yes, that would have been quite cool. Yes.
Yeah, there should have been more Pennywise in this film, I think is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I felt he wasn't in it as much, was he, at all? Really? No. It was a lot more like just the friends kind of getting back together.
Yeah. I almost felt, I was hoping before this came out, the sequel came out after the first one, that he was almost going to be gloating and taunting by him thinking that he is prepared.
Yes.
As in, so that when they're coming into it, like even in the miniseries, when when Ben's character is coming back into town, he sees Pennywise on the side of the road waving at him and pointing at him.
Yes.
And then turns around. There's a balloon in his car. Little stuff like that, just to it's seeping into their psyche, or it's starting to infect whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% there, Richard. There's just little bits that could have been played to make it a lot more sinister and edgy rather than... And that's the thing, this film is a bit popcorn in places.
It's very popcorn, but again, for the first time watch, I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Really for resolution's sake.
Yes, exactly. All right, so Mike goes to investigate the death scene of Adrian, and then he goes under the bridge and he sees the message "Come home" written in blood on the side of the bridge. So Mike knows that it has come back. So he then gets out his Rolodex and starts calling up the losers one by one.
Yeah.
Let's start with Billy. Played by James McAvoy, as we said, and he is a writer, successful writer, much like Stephen King himself. And he has now turned to writing screenplays. And so we see him on the set of a film of one of his...
On the Warner Brothers lot?
On the Warner Brothers lot, yeah. And we are introduced to his wife, Audra. And she is an actress. And we are also introduced to the director, who is played by Peter Bogdanovich. And they basically both say to Bill that the ending of his stories are shit.
They're always bad.
They're always bad. They're always good. And that's because this wasn't really explored very, very well in this particular interpretation. But because he has never had resolution with Pennywise, he struggles to find resolution in his books. So yes, he's able to write quite scary stuff, but he can never kind of finish the books with a pleasing ending because of that.
Was that also in the book? Was that something that? Oh, good. So it was something that Bill had. I didn't know if it was something new that they added because it was also a dig at Stephen King.
No, it's very much him having to dig it himself in the book.
Oh, good, awesome.
Because he was found guilty of doing similar things with his.
Oh, even better. That's great.
So he's definitely having a bit of a jive with himself.
Yes. So you were just going to say, what was it? You were saying Bill's wife is Audra, who plays an actress, but surprisingly, this is the only time we see her acting in this film. In the miniseries, she was played by, what was it, Olivia Hussey?
Yes, Olivia Hussey,
Yeah, and
Black
there's
Christmas
this whole
thing.
sequence.
Go check out Black Christmas podcast of the original 1974 one. Both.
Yeah, the original, not the remake.
Yeah. Olivia Hussey. Yeah, you were going to say something about her character, Audra? Yeah.
Just how big of an impact she had on the original miniseries, and I'm assuming that came from the book because of the end of the miniseries. Again, spoilers, but she gets set into a coma type state because she looks into the deadlights at the end.
I won't throw her away.
Yeah, the only way they can bring her out is by riding downhill at break wind speed on Hi-Ho Silver, and it brings her out because she's like, Bill, stop, this is fucking crazy, you're going to get us killed or at least maimed, and I'm not going to care for you in a bloody wheelchair. This is her entire internal dialogue, and because Olivia Hussey was such a good actress, you could see this communicated through her eyes.
Absolutely.
But surprising that they cut her out of this, yet had her character at the beginning of the film, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, because that was part. What I liked about Bill's character and Audra's character is they're clearly a couple that love each other but are going through a difficult period, and it's almost like the Pennywise experience is what brings them back together. They just choose not to explore that at all. No,
because I didn't get any problems or anything like that, which is so strange. Then later on, when again spoilers, Bill jumps at what is it,
Beverly?
Yeah, and kisses her, and it's sort of like, oh, naughty boy.
But that does happen. That happens in the book.
Yeah.
So that because there was always a.
Then again, an orgy happens in the book.
Yeah. The old orgy scene.
Exactly, the old orgy or the young one, depending on
young orgy. Matron.
Matron, yes, please. Yes, I know. But yeah, anyway. So we find out that his endings are shit. Then he gets a call from Mike.
Yeah, and he comes out and he gets the stutter straight away. Yeah, which is cool.
The stutter and the stigmata, but still.
Yeah, the hand.
Yes.
He's like, oh dear. So that happens, and he's like, you and basically Mike's saying you made a promise, you need to come back. The next person on the list is Eddie, who is now a risk assessor, and he's married to a woman who's on the large side, and who very much like his mum, essentially. His mum was on the large side too.
Exactly. And I'm sure you know this, but the actress who plays his wife in the sequel is the same actress that plays his mother in both the original, in the first part and the sequel.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely.
Not the original, not the miniseries. No. Oh no.
Oh no, that's a disaster.
No, please.
So that's right. Which is kind of a cool. That actually was kind of cool that he did that. So he's on the phone. We see him on the phone to his wife, and she's very much the most she's quite domineering of him.
Yeah, you were going to say dominatrixing.
I was going to say dominatrix, yeah. Domineering. And he's dominant. That's right. And he's saying how he has. He's more likely to be in an accident on a phone call to her than speeding through traffic or something like that.
Yeah.
But then he gets the phone call from Mike, and he sees the number, and he almost knows, doesn't he? He kind of he sees that it's from Derry, I think.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like, shit, and he picks it up, and it's Mike. And then Eddie has a car accident.
Yeah. This scene reminded me actually so much of Heart and Souls, just to go back to a great film.
Oh, yeah.
Heart and Souls with, what was it, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
The scene when the ghosts come back to him and say, we're going to see you. I was waiting for that. I was hoping there was going to be, as I said, like a scare or something like that from Pennywise rather than him scratching his car. Having said that, it was still good. He still crashed his car.
Yeah, that's cool. Just the impact he has on it. And I was going to say that. So he has his accident. Then we get, after that, we are introduced to Ben. And I liked the way this is done. There's a couple of reasons why I like it. We see a boardroom set up, and people are around looking at architecture or a model building that they're proposing. And there's one guy who is leading that conversation. So kind of leading to you to think that, and he's quite a big guy, the guy that's playing him. And it kind of leads you to think that this is
that's probably Ben.
This is Big Ben.
Hello there.
Hi, Ben. But more importantly is that the guy who is playing the guy in the boardroom is Brandon Crane, who is actually the guy that played the young Ben in the miniseries.
Whoa!
What?
Whoa!
Yeah, absolutely. Which I thought was awesome. Cool. And then we pan out, and then we reveal that there's a video screen, and the actual character of Ben is now young, good-looking, jaw-droppingly good-looking.
New Zealand.
New Zealander, Jay Ryan. Jay Ryan, isn't he? Yeah, and he's kind of. What struck me is that he's not that he's remote from. Yeah, I guess that's part of it. So he's quite socially kind of withdrawn if he's choosing to do it remotely, but also that he's walking around barefoot. That was what struck me most about that scene. I kind of went, oh, okay. I guess you would if you're not needing to go in the office. You would go a bit more casual in your attire. And so basically Ben kind of gets the call next, and he's like, I need to take this. Then we are introduced to Richie, Bill Hader with vomit.
Yeah. Now, I think, I don't know how they did this effect, but I think what they did was he had something in his mouth and he vomited out the first bit. Then he heaved, and they digitally put in more vomit as they continued.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Because there's no way that was two rounds of bomb.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. As we study the vom factor here on Seasons of Horror.
The 3 vomits in this film, so it definitely gets a good rating.
Yes. So Bill, as Richie, and we realise that he's a stand-up comedian. He's just received the phone call. He comes back inside, and we see that he's obviously successful, and he's about to do a performance, and then he gets on stage and he just goes blank. Can't remember his lines.
Yeah.
So that's how we realise he's had Pennywise still has an impact on him. We then get introduced to Stanley, and he's doing a puzzle.
Yeah.
And it's on a kind of glass coffee table, and I like
old-fashioned jigsaw puzzle. Kids.
Yeah, that's right. But what I liked about this is that he's got the phone face down, and as it rings, he knocks a jigsaw puzzle on the floor.
Oh yeah, and he goes to go underneath it.
Yeah, and he goes underneath and he sees the call from underneath. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's fun. In the upside down.
Exactly. And and so he gets the call from Mike, and he's just like, it's back, isn't it? He kind of says straight away, he's like, it's back, isn't it? He knows the deal. He knows
he's back. What happens if everyone doesn't turn back up? What do we do?
Yeah.
He's right fucking scared.
Yeah, he doesn't. I ain't having any of that shit.
He's proven himself. He's not even going to finish that puzzle.
Nah, he's like, you know what? I ain't coming back to that. That puzzle's done.
Nope.
What if one of those pieces were missing? What if I was no longer playing that game anymore?
Then I'd have to go and have a bath.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go up the bath, and I'm gonna kill myself, and
that'll solve the puzzle.
That'll solve the puzzle. Let them see. Let them just see how they're gonna fix it now. So do we see him kill himself at that point, or do we just see?
No. This is where we just see him getting all nervous.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so then we finally get to meet Bev Flay.
She wakes all of a sudden in a night terror
and has the drip of blood on her face.
Of course. Wait, no, maybe we do then see. Of course we would. Yeah, no, you're right. He goes
lying in the bath, and he looks like he's just lying.
Yeah, and then he's switched over the side. We don't see the "it" written on the wall here.
No, we don't see the "it." Yeah.
No, but that's cool. Like the scene transition in this are quite nice. Even from the beginning one that opens up on the fair. I think it goes into the sewer first or something, and then it goes up into the fair or something.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
But it's a lovely transition there. There's another nice transition with the puzzle, and then this is another transition which is nice. Yeah,
it's nice. There's a lot. Actually, there's a lot of maturity in the way this film's put together, I felt.
Yes.
As compared to the last one.
Oh yeah. I guess that there wasn't so many like sort of transitional sort of things, but I do think that the cinematography still on the first one was quite good. I mean, it still looks stunning.
Yeah. So where are we? So Bev wakes up and we have
designer.
Fashion designer. I design things for people to wear.
And she's married to Tom Rogan.
Tom Hardy.
Yep. Played by Will Beanbrink.
Shakespeare. I'm losing the plot. Look.
So am I. But yes, and so she's
Tom
like,
Reagan, who's a dick.
Exactly. Yeah, she says, I got to go back to Derry, and he's just like, oh, great, but who's Mike? I heard you saying Mike. Now I'm going to hit you with stuff, and then he does quite harshly. Great sound effects.
And that's in the book too. That is full on in the book. Like it's a full on fucking fight in the book.
Whoa.
And she literally manages just to be able to get out of there without being completely beaten up and not able to survive.
She should have gone all James Brown on his ass.
Yeah. So we do get elements of that here, but it's a bit more friendly.
Well, she still takes a punch to the face. I don't know if friendly would be the word we would use.
Look, it's just not as brutal.
Well, I was surprised. I thought that he was going to be knocked out at least.
Yeah.
I wanted to know what the final bludgeoning weapon was. I've been watching too many forensic files, but the idea of going, what was the weapon that made contact with the face? But it shatters, so it's something glass. But I was hoping it was going to be something blunt and it was going to keep him from getting up.
But she does get out of there, and she does.
She kicks his ass.
She kind of goes out with just what she's wearing essentially, and a luggage bag. And she leaves the ring.
While she's leaving. Mm-hmm.
As she's leaving. And speaking of omitted characters, that is also the last time we see Tom Rogan.
Is he supposed to come back?
Yeah, in the book, he, like Audra, comes back to pursue his lover in this case. And he gets his comeuppance with Pennywise.
Oh.
None of that makes it in this version.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool that he gets taken out by Pennywise.
He kind of
had a little bit of character resolution in her killing him.
Yeah. So in the book,
Beverly seeks refuge from one of her friends before she then gets on a plane and flies off. And then Tom's character then goes to the friend's house and he delivers shit out of her to get the answer of where Beverly's gone.
Whoa!
Yeah. Yeah. So
maybe at least we don't get to see somebody else.
Exactly. But yeah, I found that interesting, like particularly in hindsight with you talking about the order role as well.
Yeah, no, that's very, very cool and very interesting. I always love those things that are omitted, especially from Stephen King's stuff.
Yes. Okay, so then so she gets on the plane, and then
I think
we get our first flashback, which shows what happened. What became of Henry Bowers?
Yes,
because in the first film, we see him falling down a huge well, and you say he's no way going to survive that fucking shit.
No,
you're going to bring him back, but no, he does survive.
Apparently, yeah.
He's flushed.
Comes out of the water.
Flushed out he is.
Swimming with a whole bunch of dead kids.
And he comes home and to find a bunch of cops outside his house, because obviously the scene from the first film is that he killed his dad. And so they're there and they basically arrest him for murdering his dad. And whilst
he's screaming, "I'm not finished," and also conveniently placing his hands in the position so that they can cuff him easily.
Yeah. I'm not finished yet. Cuff me.
Don't want to do another take for that, Andy? No.
No, I don't. We'll just shoot it. Perfect. Move on.
Perfect.
I love it. I love this kid. I love the way his hands were placed.
This Finn Wolfhard, let's digitally make it the same as he was in the first film, even though he's just won't cut his hair.
Okay, let's stick a Meg Ryan wig on him. No, that's a different character. Okay, so and then we find out that he's now in a mental institute in one day, and we have that bit where he sees a floating red balloon.
And acts completely crazy.
He's like, "Oh, I like balloons."
And he seemed a little bit too comedic for the previous actor. I would have liked it if he was just more of consoled, insane, and everybody else was running right around him. But anyway,
it would have been more, a lot more edgy if he was, dialed down several notches.
That also plays with the idea of, as you were saying, the creepiness about the first film has like a lot of slow scares, whereas this one has a lot of quick scares. Because even after we see this, he follows the red balloon and gets sent back to his room. When he's in the room, he goes over to his his hospital bed, and he pulls back a part of a little goddamn blanket that's scrolled over the edge to reveal a balloon, a big old red balloon.
Big old red balloon under there.
Exactly. With musical stings that really aren't needed here. But then he tries to pull the balloon out and it doesn't come out, and then suddenly it pops. Now that's a great bit of anticipation, because you were expecting it to blow. You don't know when it's going to blow, and great fun. But as it blows, you see then a scary picture of the mangled corpse of what's his name?
Patrick.
Not Bill. Patrick Hoxton. Yeah. That's right. One of the guys, the one with the flamethrower who was going to set fire. And then, Henry Bowers falls back, and then Patrick runs out all quick style, like a
like a little.
It's not scary. If they had done a slow scare with that, I think it would have been much more terrifying.
Yeah.
But again, he gives him MacGuffin plot point, his knife.
He goes, here. It's my knife. Yeah. That's the knife. And so basically he's going to use that to escape. And then we come back to, so basically that's the first act. Where we kind of meet everyone and where they're at. Then we start getting into the middle part of it, where we have the reunion is kind of the end of the first act, where they turn up at the Chinese restaurant. And we see, I'm trying to remember, obviously Mike's there first, and then Bill turns up. And outside, and then Eddie turns up too. So that's the three first introduced to each other. Then we get Bev and Ben outside.
and at which point Richie turns up to kind of feel like the third wheel, as the Bev and Bennett.
The young'uns put it.
Getting on, aren't they? We're about to get busy. So then those three enter into the restaurant, and so we have the kind of reunion, as it were, as they kind of reunite, kind of talk about old times, shits and giggles, all the like. And but they also realise that Stan's not there. Stanley.
Yeah.
And then they get fortune cookies.
Yeah, and in the fortune cookies is written a whole bunch of words they have to figure out. And when they do figure it out, it says that Stanley... no, that's right. Guess Stanley couldn't cut it.
Guess Stanley could not cut it. And the person that has the word Stanley is Bev.
Oh.
Who, in this, has some kind of psychic ability, too.
Yeah.
Which is
never
supposedly from when she looked in the deadlights.
And in which she can see everyone's death.
Yes.
Doesn't elaborate on it, but...
No, it doesn't. And my interpretation of that is, because obviously spiders, they don't all die. But I kind of interpret that as Pennywise's view. Like that's how he thinks it's going to play out.
Or even it's just like him messing with you again, just trying to throw in another like buff thing to make you scared about your death.
Yeah. I like it.
I'll give you a goose.
So they basically kind of like, get worried about Stanley. So Beverly calls up Stanley's wife, and before the wife can kind of say what's happening, Beverly basically says, he was in the bathtub.
Yep. That's when we see him with him written "it" on the wall. But this also happens after we see those crazy spider-type creatures that come out of the fortune cookies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, kind of glossed over that. That whole bit. I mean, that happens in the miniseries as well. Happens in the book.
Yes.
But it's still odd. It's still very CGI. Very kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the moments where they're reacting to it is almost a bit like it feels like they're unfortunately, it looks like they're acting against something they can't see.
Yes.
It's exactly what is happening essentially, but they weren't able to gloss over the cracks with it. I felt.
No, and then that usually is a very big problem with CG, and especially in the sort of shots that you can do where it might look good. A performance or an eye line might look good in one shot angle, but if you're moving the camera or you change that angle, it just might look a bit off or uncanny valley, or just might be too much movement so that it's shifted where you could cheat what looks like an eye line to then be pretty obvious that it's not. And so a lot of times with shaky cam and handheld stuff, that'll happen. Like we can do amazing stuff with motion tracking, but still, character performance and integration of CG elements is so crucial. But in this scene, it didn't work very well. It still didn't work in the miniseries very well, and it's hands up. Like what was it? When I saw it again, the big thing I took out of this was I think that the severed heads in the fish tanks were singing the same song as the Chinese restaurant.
Oh, were they?
I think.
That's cool.
I saw. Yeah, I thought that was really funny. I was just like, that's gold. Throughout the whole film, I was like, there needs to be either a little bit more comedy in here or a little bit more bloody Pennywise.
Yeah. I like that. I didn't realise that. I'm going to have to rewatch that scene now because I actually like that element. Cool. All right, so they basically find out that what they now 6 instead of 7. Yeah. With Stanley's demise. So they that actually rounds out the first act of the reunion.
Yes, Eddie and Richie both say that they're heading home, getting on out of Derry.
Hey, I ain't sticking around.
And they all go back to the hotel to grab their stuff.
Yeah, they go back to the hotel, and this is where Mike kind of basically says, "No, we need to do this thing."
We do this thing. He said, look at this, and then if you don't believe me after this, then you can go.
Yeah.
And he does a Bill Cosby on him.
Yeah, he does. Drugs him.
He Cosby's him.
I was about to say he drugs and rapes them. Okay.
Well, we don't know. All we see is getting drugged.
But we see that from Bill's point of view, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and he has the whole ritual of Chud kind of from... I forgot the name of the Native American tribe that we see kind of performing it. They had a name. And he realizes that, there's a way to destroy Pennywise. And at the same time...
makeshift Ugg boot.
Sorry?
In his makeshift Ugg boot.
Yes. Look at this. I'm still working on it.
This is a MacGuffin thing.
Yeah. So Mike, so he kind of mentions how he's been studying the history of it over the course of time and the whole ritual child stuff, and that's a way that they can destroy it once and for all.
By putting some sort of tokens into this thing.
Yeah, exactly. We need to get the tokens. The tokens is the key. Gather these artifacts from their childhood.
Like an intensity.
Place it in the pottery so they can destroy Pennywise. Then we get the scene where we kind of gravitate away from our losers.
We go to a baseball game.
Where's baseball?
Another film. Oh, I just realised the connection. I wonder if there's a... we've got to watch Critters Attacks again and see if there's a baseball field in it. Because Dr. Sleep and It Chapter 2 both have significant scenes with baseball.
They do, but I don't know. I have to...
Oh, yay!
I can't watch it again. So,
but anyway, so this is where we see a little girl who doesn't want to watch baseball and her mum wants her to watch baseball.
Yeah. Just fucking watch the baseball.
Exactly.
So
this is a firefly. She follows that.
Yeah, and this is the girl that we saw in the first scene who with the birthmark.
Exactly.
And she goes to follow the firefly and goes under the bleachers, and that's where we see Pennywise.
Yeah, that's a nice little creepy moment.
A nice little creepy moment where he's kind of lit up in this orange light, just lighting his face.
Yeah.
And he's like, use a lot of manipulation with her. She at first goes, "You're scary," and then he plays on the fact that she obviously has a birthmark, and he goes, "Oh, I didn't want you to see my face because people make fun of my face," and then that stops her and goes, "Oh,
no, isn't that
people make fun of my face too?" And
is it because you're ugly?
No. And so he kind of lures her back into the bleachers essentially, and he basically says, she says, I get people take the piss out of me too, and because of my birthmark. And he goes, "Oh, that little thing, why I can blow it away."
And then he says one poof, which I thought was quite funny because that's what he did in the first scene.
Yes. He did. Interesting. And Pennywise, promises to make it go away, and then she kind of leans forward and he says on the count of 3, and he goes 1, 2, and then he starts to pause and salivate and go a bit weird, and she says you're supposed to say 3.
And that's when it takes a big old chump out of her face.
Takes a big chump out of her face. Says, you don't need that.
He sort of turns into a cactus.
He does. I quite like that scene. I mean, I know I'm taking the piss out of it. But I quite like it.
Great.
Yeah. It's probably...
I'm assuming that was another edition or another adapted scene?
Yeah, I don't remember that in the book. And that's not to say it hasn't happened. I don't remember it in the book.
No, there needed to be more scenes like this.
Yeah. I liked it because it's probably the most creepiest he was, I think.
Yeah. It would have been actually interesting to see the boy, because at the end of the dinner scene when they're walking out of the Jade restaurant, the fully-head boy stops Richie and then says a line from his show, which I can't remember, but it's also ironic because the fun's just beginning or something like that.
Beginning, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. And then he shakes him and goes, "Fuck you! Fuck you!" Every time that kid gets shaken in this movie, I just imagine like a rattling of marbles sound, like, you know, when like you shake a bag of bones, like his neck is just snapping.
Yeah.
But and that's what he says. But it would have been interesting to see Pennywise following him, or the little kid looking off into, like, you know,
I agree.
Pennywise in the distance or something.
Yeah, because that happens a lot in the book, right? There are moments where the kids all have their weird interactions with Pennywise, and he's always kind of he's a hunter, so he's a predator, and he will try and kind of lure kids out. And the reason he and this is something that's slightly not really touched on, but the reason why kids are his prey is because they're a bit more vulnerable and a bit like easy pickings, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's why he never attacks grown-ups, and that's why the last line that he says is really quite poignant. But we'll come to that when we get to that very last scene.
Yeah.
So like he's you're right with the kid. We forgot about the kid, but that's really important because he does come back. And so we have that moment under the bleachers. So we go back to the losers, and that's right. It's where they kind of go to the old clubhouse that Ben built.
That suddenly appears.
Yes, which in the book is there. Ben has built this thing, and it is under the ground, and it's hard.
Really?
Yeah, and it's done in a way that it's hidden so that people can't see it, because they get chased by Henry at one point, and they all hide in there. Interestingly, they perform the ritual of Chud under there.
Hey.
In a very kind of smoke-induced, drug-induced moment. And
what, when they're a kid?
Yeah, when they're kids. And Mike and Bill, I think, are the last two in there because the smoke gets too much. And they're the two that have the hallucinogenic experience where they see the birth of Pennywise and how he came to be.
Oh, wow.
So the point is the clubhouse does exist, and Ben did build it, and it's an indication of what he would go on to become, a successful architect. We get that first instance of that. So we have this whole thing, and then we have we have a bit of a flashback scene there where they find where we get the whole thing about Stanley bringing the shower cap to everyone because he doesn't want to get spiders in his hair.
Yes.
And they realise that that's Stanley's token, is the shower cap when they find it. Yeah.
I don't know why.
You don't know why the shower cap?
Yeah, some of these tokens are a bit, of a stretch.
Yeah.
But
It's
anyway.
an odd one, isn't it? You'd think it would be something else. I mean, like in the
other takeaway.
In the book, his token would have been his book of birds.
That's what I was thinking. Here in the miniseries, it was the Book of Birds. He had prided himself on knowing all of the birds in the book.
That's right, and that was what he used.
Scout stuff.
Yeah, that's it. But kids don't do scout days today. They wear shower caps because they're fucking nuts.
Yeah.
I ain't going bird watching. I'm going to go out with my shower cap on.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's his token. And then they but we do get that moment where Stanley almost has like a bit of foresight, and he said, will they still be friends as adults? And they were like, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and I was just about to say the other takeaway for this scene is the CGI faces of Finn Wolfhard and Jack Dylan kid.
Yeah, the Jack Dylan kid, yeah.
Yeah. And also his voice, who they did ADR, but they got somebody else to do his voice because his voice broke apparently.
Yeah. Yeah,
so it's annoying as hell. It's uncanny valley, but then also unsynchronized.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, with Finn in particular, you're talking about with his face.
Yes,
that whole bit was a bit. Ooh. And I kept thinking that every time he was on it too.
Yeah,
which is a shame because that distracts you.
Exactly.
So anyway, the gang then are told that they have to go their separate ways by Mike to find their tokens.
The trinkets.
Go get the trinkets and deliver gold. We first follow Bev, who goes to her old home. And then this is the bit that was in the first original teaser trailer. He goes to visit.
Which was great. That long stare and the creepiness of her was great.
Question: when she first knocks on the door of her old house, we hear the voice of the old lady behind, but I'm pretty sure it's Bill as Pennywise at that point.
Oh, really? I thought it was the father.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Bill because
that makes sense too.
Because it's before the door opens and we see it's the old lady there.
Yeah, but we just hear what sounds like a male's voice.
Yeah, and
that's what makes
I'm pretty sure it's Bill as Pennywise. And then correct me if I'm wrong, podcast the listeners out there, but that was my interpretation of it. Then we get the whole scene where she invites him, Beverly, inside, and we get a bit of there's the photos on the wall. We see there's carnival photos, and that's my daddy on the wall. In
this country with only $14 in his pocket, he joined the circus.
He joined the circus, and he became a clown called Pennywise. I mean, not Pennywise. I mean, Wisey Penny.
Why is he Penny? I don't know. Why is he Penny?
Why is he Penny? So we have that bit, and she keeps popping off in the background and doing new chicken dancing.
Yeah, which is great. Like the creepy, like naked running around in the background.
Naked running around, and then coming back in at points and said, "Oh, I need cookies in the oven," and it just gives
has a rotting chest.
Yes, and then gives Bev the chance to kind of explore a little bit. And then she finds her token, which is the poem that was written to her, which she believed was written by Bill, but was written by Ben. And she grabs that, and then that's when she gets that moment where if Miss Kirsch kind of says, "Have you?" If she was Daddy's little girl. Mm-hmm. And she goes, "Oh, that sounds a bit weird. Why are you talking like that?" And then she's hidden in the background. And then she comes out, this giant old boob chasing woman who looks like she's from Left 4 Dead, the computer game.
Yeah. It almost looks like she's a Deadite wannabe from Evil Dead 2.
Yes.
Yeah. Long, but it doesn't work digitally. Like the good thing about the practical effects in Evil Dead 2 was it was there, it was visceral, and you could it looked scary because of that. But in this, it's also too the movement and momentum of something. She's coming out with such force from the darkness there that you almost want her to smash through whatever. She's like, I wanted her to run into Bev and smash her into the wall, or just to let its head hit against the beam at the top or something. It doesn't work. That's the same whole thing of the whole it jumping at someone. I mean, is he doing it to attack, or is it literally just to scare? In which case, you like, I don't know. There's all this stuff. But again, it would have been so much more terrifying if it was I reckon a very slow reveal of a shadow of a fully naked man, which was the father. And a very slow sort of thing where she would just be completely terrified and unable to move. More, it's that sort of thing. Like she can't leave.
Yes, agreed. And that's something you touched on earlier. Is like there's these quick, fast kind of edits and like fast scares rather than like slow, intimidating kind of sinister scares. They choose to go with here. So this old woman. Deadite kind of woman chases after Bev. She gets out of there. She gets the fuck out of there, and then she realizes that what she thought said Kirsch on the door thing, and that it's also an old dilapidated warehouse. It's not, it's not no longer apartments there.
Yeah. Now, this is where one of the transitions I didn't like. It goes to a hard cut of, like, you see the building of the dilapidated building, then it cuts down to Bev, then it cuts hard to another shot from the same angle looking up at a new building. And then it cuts down to Ben, or pans down to Ben, or something like that. And it's a new scene.
Yeah.
Like, you're in that flow of going, oh, wait, is that the building new, or is it? I don't know. That took me off a bit.
Yeah,
felt like that they might have, shifted things around there in the editing.
Yeah, true. I missed the point too. I've just realised I missed the point where we see Pennywise putting on makeup, and he rips his face.
Yeah, she's trying to get out of the door and then looks behind herself and sees him saying that you couldn't save them.
Yeah.
Something.
Yes. That's right. And I actually like that performance as well. Actually, that bit.
No, it was brilliant.
Yeah,
it was awesome. Again, like, you know, we would have been great to see more Pennywise, but to touch on something like that almost hints at lore, like, you know, as in, who was he before the Pennywise? It's always interesting, and we don't need to know anything about it. It also could just be what he wants you to see, like what he wants you to think to make it more scary or something like that.
Yes.
It's great. I love it, and I'm assuming again that wasn't in the book,
No.
but I'm assuming. Like, you know,
I know. Although we are at some point, like he's described as Bob Gray at this point, his human form, and I know that was in the book. I just can't remember where that comes about. But yeah, so we, as I said, everyone's going out to get their tokens. The other people we see is Richie in the arcade, and we have the flashback as a kid, and he's playing with what he doesn't realise is Henry's cousin.
Yeah,
and then Henry turns up. And basically accuses Richie of being a fairy. Then we see the adult Richie out on the like town square, and we have Richie, and he looks up at the statue, the big statue. And Pennywise on the top of it with a lot of balloons, and he's like, we all know your dirty little secret. And we see in the background everyone's kind of paused and they're kind of looking a bit... and they
Paul Bunyan statue, that's what it is.
The sound of the music.
Yeah.
As he comes down. And he's basically just saying, oh, no, we do... did I miss a bit first? We
not too sure.
Get the thing where the statue chases after the young Richie first, sorry, and attacks him, and then he's like lying on the ground saying, it's not real. Then we get the older Richie coming to the same place.
Exactly. And that statue is actually Paul Bunyan. He's a giant lumberjack in American and Canadian folklore.
Yeah.
His exploits revolve all around tall tales of his superhuman labors, and he's customarily accompanied by the babe, the blue ox.
Nice.
But yeah, apparently, like, you know, he's a thing. But that's who the statue was. And I quite like that because that was supposed to be from the book. And I can imagine how, again, that you were saying at the beginning how the miniseries scared you and Pennywise scared you as Tim Curry. But I do think that would probably be shifting a perspective. It's the same way as you would show a kid who's never seen any other Star Wars, the recent Star Wars films, and they will probably love it because they don't know any other different It's like, you know, So even with this, like moments like the Paul Bunyan thing and the Patrick Hockstetter character, would definitely, I think, have scary moments for a kid, but also too as a homage, knowing that it scared him as a kid. Would be another element to it.
Yes, that's right. That's
right. Recurring thing.
Yes.
Having said that, though, in this scene when he closes his eyes and he says, "You're not real," and it zooms, it tracks in on Bill Hader's eyes. Then he opens his eyes and it's just Pennywise. They're going and running at him quite fast. I don't know. Either go completely comic or have a bigger payoff than that, because again, if you're supposed to be an interstellar demon type thing that can make you scared of, like, you know, show you your greatest fears,
going boogada isn't going to work it.
I reckon.
Yeah, I hear you. It was a bit of a weird moment, that one.
But anyway, like, you know, I know that bit gets a lot of hate too because of the Bunyan character statue, it was in the book, and
it was in the book, and it's an indication of how Pennywise takes on other forms. And I think that's why it's important to have it.
Exactly.
Good. We also get Bill goes to the antique shop.
Yes,
where he sees
the good old cameo,
and we get the cameo. That's right, of Stephen King working there, and he's like, "You're a successful author. You can give me $300 for the bike.
You can afford it.
You can afford it."
More interestingly, Bill carries at least $300 in cash in his wallet.
Yeah, what the fuck?
In cash. Like, yeah, sure, he's a writer, but I don't know anybody who this was set nowadays.
Yeah, it was.
Isn't using FPOS for a $300 transaction.
That's right.
Maybe America's different.
You take cash? You got cash? No. You don't
We
get
take bicycles and souls only.
Yeah, but he buys the bike and then he rides around town in a very comical way. As he tries
I was kind of waiting for it to like fall apart on him, like an old like Keystone Cops film.
Yeah, that'd have been good. And then he comes to the corner of Jackson and Witcham, which is where it all began.
Yeah.
And where
he has a flashback of his younger self in a Stand By Me outfit, kneeling down into a sewer grate, yelling into a sewer to a thing that he thinks he's already defeated.
Yes.
Yeah. It's surreal.
Hold on. Is it to someone who thinks he's defeated?
I don't know. I assume that this flashback was taking place after they had defeated him. Or is it supposed to take place
I thought it was before. Oh,
well, that makes even more sense. I guess these flashbacks don't have dates on them, so
that's true. But I thought that was the case. I thought it was before, so he's playing on the whole guilt thing he has with not being there for Georgie.
I guess too, it could also be justified too that this could be Bill's perspective of his own flashback, therefore glorified in his own sense. Similar to the way in the end when they have the confrontation. Spoilers, but we'll get to that later on. But
So
he's yelling "Hi, Georgie."
He gets down. And then older Bill does the same thing.
No, that's inappropriate to say.
And he,
but young Bill punches the ground.
Yes, he does.
That would have really hurt.
That would have really hurt. Yeah.
With sound effects, you make it great. I hope the ground was squishy, like they did in a Mission Impossible Fallout. There's a great scene in the fight scene when Tom Cruise like lands suddenly on a knee, and you can see part of what should be a tile floor go squishy, like as foam.
Ooh.
It's good fun.
I like that.
Yeah, but similar like sort of thing like this. But yes, but then older Bill goes all nostalgic and goes to walk away, but then thinks he hears Georgie in the drains.
He does. And he goes down and he goes, "Oi, where's my boat?"
Giz is my boat, you little
cuck. My boat, you little shit.
And then all these like severed hands grab him.
Yeah, start trying to pull him down, and he manages to wrestle himself free, and he gets the boat.
Wrestle, yeah. And
then, but there's a moment where he sees the kid.
The kid? Oh, yes, of course, the kid. Also, just before that, he pulls the boat out and just bullshit. Like, is this real? Did he actually pull it out of there? Like, this irritated me so much to no end. I comfortably would imagine him through the rest of this film holding nothing and pretending like he's holding something. And it's just like, it's all in his head. It's okay.
And at that point where they exchange tokens and they're burning it, and they come to him and he goes, "I've got my boat," and they just look at him and he's got nothing in his hands.
Yeah, he's got nothing in his hands. Yeah.
They're like, "Bill, what?"
Yeah. Either that or like a wrapper to something he's pulled out of the trash or something like that.
I made it myself.
Yeah, but even if he had made it himself again and sealed it with the wax and written on the side, I don't know, something a bit more. But anyway, I digress. He's got the boat now, and then the little shit turns up again.
Yeah. And he's like, "Why are you talking to a drain?"
That's right, berates him.
Yeah.
It's just like, "Oh, you comic value kid, you're gonna die."
And then and then for the second time he gets shouted at.
And shook.
Yeah.
Rattling him.
And then he runs off. He goes, "Fuck you, I'm going to carnival." And that's it, he's gone.
The music starts to get all heavy and he goes, "Oh no."
Yeah, and then and so we also have Ben, who basically he goes back to his old locker, doesn't he, I think?
I think he
finds Oh no, that's right. He already has the token on him. He never got rid of it, which is
that's right.
His end of year book, which was only ever written by one person in the book, Bev. So, but he decides to go back to his school, and that's where we have the flashback, and he has that. There's that moment where he a bit of a nod to the first film, where it's the video.
I was about to say,
going on.
Even to the miniseries when I was talking about that one before, similar, but I don't know. I don't think it's executed as well here.
No.
It went for a scare and
and then she's got red, like Bernie hair.
Yeah, literally sets the hair on fire.
And then the young Bev chases after him, all aflame, and he tries to hide in his locker, and he leans back, and there's the picture of Gordon Knight first from New Kids on the Block.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or I forget which one it is. One of the Knights. There was two brothers.
Templar.
Oh no, was it Jordan or was it Danny? Now I'm testing myself. I think it was Danny. Anyway, and then he leans forward, and when he leans back, it's replaced by Pennywise standing there.
The newer boy on the block.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
yep. Pennywise, who then says those immortal words of "Kiss me, fat boy."
Kiss me, fat boy.
Which has none of the effect. Effect.
But he just said, he kind of rushes it too, doesn't he? He just kind of goes, "Kiss me, fat boy."
Yeah. And then as he's like taunting him down the hallway, he continues to say something like "Kiss me, fat boy" or something.
Yeah.
But it loses its power, and it really, I don't know.
Yeah, it's fucking shit.
I almost was hoping that when he got out of the locker, the Bev with the fiery hair was going to chase him again. So he was going to be that choice of stay in with Pennywise or go out and face her.
Yeah.
But nope, another missed opportunity. But
none of that happens. He just gets out of there.
Yeah.
And then we had the whole scene with Eddie at the pharmacy where he goes to pick up his inhaler, and he sees the old creepy pharmacist dude again. And then he finds himself down in the basement of the place, and his mum is strapped.
Calling him initially by saying Eddie Bear.
Eddie Bear,
which again doesn't sound like something that someone who were tied up would be saying. Oh, Eddie Bear.
Eddie Bear.
Then berates him like saying, "What's taking you so long?"
Yeah. Hurry up! I'm behind the curtains. And so he slowly gets his way down there, finds Mum strapped up, and this weird person in a sack at the other end who starts shambling towards them, and who's like this hobo leper kind of character. Yeah, he's
like the recurring character from before, but more decrepit.
Yeah, that's right. He's trying to rescue his mum, can't save his mum, and Leopard plays tonsil tennis with mum. And then Eddie has his own confrontation, and he manages to strangle the leper and overpower him and basically get away. Makes him small. And he makes his way out of there. But he's taking.
Well, we get our third vomit moment, which is glorious, and even though it's from a human, it's
Call me angel in the morning, angel.
That's it.
Yeah.
Which again was nice, and on the review again, that still made me giggle.
Yeah, that was funny.
So, as much as it was like, it was self-aware enough, I think, to put it in there to go, repeat views of this.
Yes.
You get a laugh out of that. Having said that, the next line, again, spoilers, when he gets stabbed in the cheek and then when he leaves and he has the mullet line, that was too much for me.
What does he say?
So, later on when Henry Bowers comes in and stabs him in the cheek, but when he's walking out of the bathroom, he says, don't you know mullets are like so 2000 or something?
Oh, yeah, that was crap. All right.
I digress. He gets vomited on and gets out of that pharmacy.
Yes, he gets out of there. Speaking of Henry, this is where he then escapes from the institution, and he turns up. So, they all kind of start turning back up at the motel place.
Yeah.
He goes into the bathroom. Because he wants to wash himself because he's covered in his
face with a spritz.
Yeah. And then that's when Henry comes out and starts attacking him, and he stabs him in the face.
Stabs him in the cheek.
Yeah, which we get a precursor of that too, because the creepy pharmacist says, "What's that on your face?" and the mole, and he grabs him at the point, and he says, "It's cancer." I don't think it is, but obviously, and that's exactly the point where he gets stabbed.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. So, and then there's this weird moment there in the bathroom where he decides to climb into the bathtub and pull the shower curtain round.
Yeah, and they're giggling and talking to each other.
Yeah, that was weird. No.
Yeah. Also, a little thing too. I would have loved a sound effect of the teeth on the knife.
Yeah.
Like in his mouth, just to add to that little. Like that would be a lot of weight for his cheek to support there. I mean, but yeah, I didn't mind that. It was just the quip lines going out of it. Like, you know, even the stabbing in the cheek and the smiling and the laughter from both Henry Bowers and him, I thought was okay.
Yeah,
just okay. At the end, because again, I motivation-wise, why is he doing what he's doing? I didn't mind him getting in the bath because I was sort of like, he's in shock. He's sort of trying to get away from him still. He stabs him in the stomach and then sneaks his way out. That's why I think that the added line at the end, he should have said it when he was out of the room.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So anyway, so look, he manages to stab Henry.
Yeah.
Henry gets away.
In the chest.
He gets away, and he does that whole smiley thing.
Yeah, and then gets into the car, and Patrick Hoxton is still behind the wheel of the car, and that's what Ben is seeing. Yes, that's right. Which I thought was cool. You don't see Patrick's face, but you see him sitting in the driver's seat.
Yeah, that's right. And he drives off in a very cool way.
We don't see him drive off, but yeah, he's sitting in the car there.
That's right. Okay, and then
this must be now in the carnival happens.
Yes, this is the carnival bit. That's right, because Bill comes back, and he and then we have the skateboard with the blood dripping off it, and that's when he realizes Pennywise is going to go for him, because it says something about you can't save him either or something in blood.
That's right.
But he runs off to the carnival.
That's just beginning.
Yeah. And then we get the whole carnival scene where he ends up in the haunted house.
In the Mirror Maze.
Mirror Maze, yeah.
House? Yeah.
Well, it starts off
Fun
like, because the fun house, that's it, yeah. And we get the Mirror Maze scene, which is the new scene, and he kind of sees the kid in there. He twats himself several times, chasing after him.
Oh, it's great.
And in one scene, we see Pennywise do a weird shuffle in the background.
Which I thought would have been interesting if he was on the roof.
Oh, yeah.
Like he was just upside down instead of going, like, at least that's interesting.
That would have been.
Yeah. I think ever since Mama has sort of come out and you got that contorting body shape mixed with a different frame rate, it definitely looks creepy. But most of it is in the artistry of actually contorting your body and it looking unnatural in that sort of uncanny valley way. You can't just speed up all footage and make it scary.
No,
otherwise,
that's right.
Benny Hill would be terrifying.
Oh, there we go. You were pitching that now, an evil version of Benny Hill.
Yes. Yeah. And we're not talking about Benny Hinn, which I'm sure is the evil version of everything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So eventually Bill catches up with the kid, but he's on the other side of the glass.
Yeah. And the kid's gotten himself into literally like a dead end. There's no way he can get out. It's just glass towards Pennywise or glass towards Bill.
Yeah.
Which again seems like a bloody crazed weirdo at this point from this kid's perspective.
I was thinking that as well, because like he's like, "Why are you following me, you freak?"
And even like the little laugh he does.
Yeah, and then we get Pennywise, as you said, appearing behind him and then smashing his head.
I like how he did. He starts off with the how clowns with babies sort of do a little they bump their head and it's like, oh, and they shake their head and it's like funny.
Yes.
I really liked how it started that. I was hoping it would have comedy rule of threes progressed a little bit slower than just going, oh, once. And then the second time it's just, I'm smashing my head now and then get worse and worse. It was just have a second element there where it's like that in between.
Yes. But, I hear you.
Besides that kid getting gruesomely torn apart really quick on camera.
Yes.
I kind of was hoping we could have seen a bit more to his death because there was so much of him established as being
Yeah, I
one of
agree again.
those
Yeah,
characters.
yeah,
Or at least, like, the scream that was in Doctor Sleep. something bloody.
yeah. Like if he was like literally eviscerated slowly,
That could have.
there's nothing Bill could do.
Well, even you don't even need to see anything. You just see like the blood splurting on the other side doing strobes and this screaming sound effect of this little kid. Oh, that would be awful.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be terrifying. Oh.
Yeah, but no.
What was this rated, by the way? Sorry.
That's a good question, actually.
Because I feel like it's almost trying to play it safe for a PG.
Yeah. I'm looking that up in the background while we're looking to see.
Yeah. Sorry, listeners, I should have done this.
It said rated R here.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Well, then they should have gone further.
Yeah, it should have.
I don't know. It would have been nice, but I guess there also probably would have been the haters who would have
maybe popcorn.
not liked the film as much.
It was a popcorn movie.
You're right.
So,
which again, kudos to Dr. Sleep then. Even more.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so the kid gets killed. And then we have the scene with Mike in the library where Henry attacks him. And we think that he's going to get killed unless you've read the book. We'll come to that in a sec. And then all of a sudden Richie turns up and stabs and kills Henry. With a kind of old Comanche axe or something, I think it is that he uses.
Yeah, it looks like a little tomahawky thing.
Yeah.
Native American axe.
Yeah. And in the book, I'm pretty sure Mike's the one that kills Henry, but not without getting really badly hurt himself.
Yeah, he ends up in the hospital, doesn't he?
He ends up in hospital, yeah. So that he doesn't actually take part in the final climax. But in this, he wants to be the leader of the group. No, I'm making that up. He does actually. Like, I felt like he wants to be the leader of the Losers Club. Like, he's the one with the history. He's the one with the idea of the ritual of the child kind of thing happening. Yeah. So they need that storyline. They kind of inserted for him to kind of carry that out. So, yeah. So they all kind of turn up basically at the library, and then they kind of go, right, let's kill this motherfucker. But they realise that they still haven't got Bill there. Mm-hmm. And they mentioned that he's gone to fight the thing on his own. Oh, no, sorry, he's gone to the carnival. And then Mike calls up Bill, and Bill says he's going to fight him on his own, and he doesn't.
That's right, and it goes straight to Nebolt Street.
Yeah. And they all turn up at Nebolt Street.
Da-da-da-da.
And they say, what are you doing, you muppet? And he's like, I'm going to go in on my own. He's like, can't do that. We're all here together. You weren't the one. We all had to do this to begin with, We were together and you didn't fight this on your own.
We're not stand.
Yeah. And then we get that comedy moment again, another comedy moment where he says, I think Richie said this best.
Yeah.
And he says,
fucking clown.
Yeah. And they go in to try and kill it. So this is now the climax of the movie.
Yeah.
And we're almost told that straight away when Mike says, just prior to that, he said, we've had the reunion, and now we've got the tokens, and now it's time to end this thing. I was like, you've just told the 3 acts in that one sentence of what the film is.
It's down the barrel of the lens. And
yes.
This is the climax of the film.
Spelling it out for those that don't follow good.
Yes.
So anyway, so they go down back to where they had their initial kind of interaction with the Pennywise, but then there's another secret tunnel that they go down further into. Did I miss a bit first? Oh, no, no. Yeah, so they go down, that's right. But then...
they go straight down, don't they? Yeah, they look through the house, but there's nothing in there. Yeah, go straight down and into his little carnival thing where he did his dance last time.
Yes.
And into the floor of that, where they get to the big crater from millions of years ago, where the original Pennywise had landed.
That's right. And
which I thought was a nice design.
I missed a bit at first. I feel like I'm jumping ahead a bit, but there's a bit where they get split up first, isn't there?
Is there? Oh yes, when they're about to go into the thing.
They get split into two, basically.
Big scary woman. Gets Bev.
Yeah, and we get the appearance of Stan's head.
Oh, well, that's right. That is back in Neibolt. That's right. That's back in the kitchen in the fridge.
Yeah,
it drops out and has a moment like in The Thing with Kurt Russell.
Yeah, that's right. And then Richie even says the lines from The Thing, which is "You got to be fucking kidding me."
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, it was cool.
What was it? There was a shot though, just before it's about to run. It runs towards the camera first, and it's just like that's so off-putting because the next shot is a terrifying, almost point of view shot of someone with a handheld camera, and it runs like below where your feet would be if you were on the camera. And that was terrifying. The shot of the back, like in its silhouette, where you can't really see it, is really, really scary. It's weird how they'll go, no, let's try and get it to jump at the camera. That's going to be more scary and terrifying for the thing. But great creature design for that too, and the way that it gets played out, which is again similar to the miniseries when they have the head in the fridge of Stanley. But it happens in the library.
Yes.
Which again is another fun moment. But yeah, that happens because that's right. That's Eddie standing in the corner, not doing anything, and he's being yelled at by Bill to grab the knife to try and get it. But Ben ends up doing it, and then just after that, they're down in there, and they're about to go through the hole where Pennywise did his dance in the first film, and Bev gets attacked by the old crone woman again. That's
right. Just to backtrack to the head spider thing for a minute. Is there a reason that Stanley's head is the kid version of him and not the old version of him?
Yeah, I don't know why that was either.
Is it because it's there? That's how they knew him. They don't necessarily know what he would have looked like, so he wouldn't have had.
Yeah, well, that's actually interesting too. Yeah, because it could be even if it was Pennywise creating the illusion, going, that's the more information he's got to use. Or it would be more traumatic to them to see that.
Yeah. It's all curious. Anyway, so
I personally think it would be from their filmmaker's perspective, going, we want to try and get the kids in this as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially you see that Finn Wolfhard scene with the Paul Bunyan and
yes,
and that went on for a little bit. Yeah,
that's right. Okay, so. We have that, and we have the bit where, so they do. Is this where they perform the ritual?
So they go down, then they put all their tokens in the middle of the crater. In their little Ugg boot thing. It says on the line that it's pottery, but I thought it was leather. But don't know. Anyway, so they put them all in there. They set fire to their things, even though one of them is a rock which wouldn't burn. One of them is a token which wouldn't burn. They do that. And one of them is completely imaginary because he doesn't have any fucking boat from his But they do it and they say the chant, the deadlights come down, get trapped in it, and then a big balloon starts farting out.
Yeah.
And pushing.
Yeah, it keeps, that's right, and they can't open it, and it keeps expanding, and it bursts, and it throws them everywhere. They all kind of get a little bit separated at this point.
Yeah, even, I guess, the little homage of the beginning where they had to fill up the balloon and, the clown's mouth and the balloon.
That's right.
Anyway, it explodes, pushing them all back, then they get the mop moment like in Archer, the tinnitus.
Yes, that's right. But they all kind of more importantly, they all kind of get separated too. This is where the Pennywise. We have Eddie and Richie together, and they get faced with the doors with the scary, very scary, and not very scary at all.
Jason.
And one of them has a disembodied pair of legs.
Yeah, it's supposed to be what's her name? Little girl who died in the first one, Betty Ripson.
Oh, is it?
I guess, yeah.
I didn't get
It's
that.
supposed to be the severed half of Betty Ripson's body. She's tap dancing around, which I thought that was good. I always like juxtaposition. So something being happy whilst being severed.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
was quite fun.
Yes.
The same as what was in the first one with the guy, the Easter egg kid. He was walking down the stairs and he didn't have a head, but he was holding Easter eggs.
Oh,
I love
that's
the
right.
idea
I forgot that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just I like the character thing of going, this thing hasn't got a head, but it's still acting out. It wants those eggs, you know?
Yes.
It's got its motivation is I don't know, scary because it's that sort of uncanny valley of a zombie
Yeah.
about its daily life. But yeah. So that's her. And then they go through the other door. I think that they go through the not scary at all door and see
The puppy.
yes, the Pomeranian, which he has referenced before. It's sort of like a Gozer moment where he's saying, yeah, I hope he just appears himself as a little tiny dog that's nothing that's scary.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping they were just going to open the door, go, nope, and close it. But it ends up morphing into a monster.
Yeah.
And then they don't even go through the middle version, even though they say next time we're going to go through the scary.
Yeah,
So it's right there.
Back, don't they? Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Um,
And so that's their little bit. And at the same time,
Bev and Ben.
Bev and Ben have a bit of
They get trapped.
and they get separated in this long corridor. She gets thrown into
Anti-gravity thing.
and so she ends up in like a cubicle of a toilet.
Yeah, so like in the first film when she was a little kid.
Yeah, and
he lands in his bunker that he built.
Yeah, that's right. And the walls start falling around with him. It starts filling up with dirt. And at the same time, she's at the other end of the cubicle, and there's Henry Bowers, her dad, and
the
pharmacist and his daughter, all trying to break into the room, and then it starts filling up with blood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Ben says the poem to her.
Yeah.
And he says, I love you. And then she bashes down the door and they're reunited again.
Yeah, kicks the door closed on her father's hands and fingers snap off. And she kicks through, grabs his hand, pulls him on out.
Yeah.
And they wet kiss.
And they have a wet, slobbery, bloody...
They have a wet French kiss.
Yeah. And then we also get the bit with Bill in the basement of where he grew up, and he's in the water, and Georgie turns up, and he
that's right.
His younger self for what happened. Bill then drowns Georgie. And then younger Bill pulls a gun on. Not a gun, like a nail gun thing.
Yeah, that little thing that they killed the sheeps with.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I meant. But it shoots blanks because he's a kid and he's not developed yet. And
the metaphors in this film. Wow.
And then older Bill grabs the gun and then he shoots the younger Bill in the head. Turns into a bit of a kind of CG kind of version cross between young Bill and Pennywise.
Yeah, has a big smile and teeth.
Yeah, and then Bill turns up back at the cabin again. And then that's when Mike has a bit of standoff with Pennywise.
Well, from this whole bit of the exploding of the bubble, has been it pretty much turning around, Pennywise turning around and saying, "Oh, you didn't tell them the truth. You didn't say everything that happened. They tried and they failed." And then we get flashbacks of seeing that he'd scratched things out on that little MacGuffin thing to hide the fact that it hadn't worked in the past. I liked that. I like the idea of it being like, him trying to, like, a lot of the times in history and stuff like that, you go, well, what did happen? It's just like, well, we're trying to find out. And a lot of people wrote different things. A lot of them are conflicting. We don't know what actually happened.
Yeah.
These are what said happened. So I like the fact that it wasn't exact. But I also, too, thought that the whole film could have worked a little bit more on their own personal values, fears, and
Agree.
and demons. Like we were talking before about how Bill is still married if he kisses Bev. So battling with that demon, whether it like him struggling with going, what's this love sensation of just like feeling now again?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah, that's
like,
right. Right.
Again, we've obviously got the homosexual thing with Richie and stuff like that, which again is that love thing. It doesn't matter that it's homosexual; it's still a love thing. Moments where Mike could have used this moment. Well, I actually thought it would have been interesting if he was killed in this moment because he held so much guilt by going, well, actually now I've killed the 6 of you or however many it is. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Because he lied to him. That put everyone else, all the other losers, in a negative headspace towards Mike. Mike in his own negative headspace and defeated nature, then having it going, I'm still the powerful thing. I thought that would have been a nice moment just to nail his power in there and just go bang, like I'll take this life as well.
That would have been cool.
Later on.
Yeah,
it really would have made him scary because in that sequence, we get a lot in this, even though it's the last climactic sequence, there are a lot of different moments, which is them struggling with their own moments and tokens, whatever. The moment that really stood out to me, and still, even when I was rewatching it and it was getting to this moment, I readjusted myself in my chair because I wanted to see it again. But it was the moment where Bill Hader's character, where Richie throws a rock or something at him and says, do you want to play Truth or Dare? I got a truth for you. And then the deadlights hit him and the sound effect gets him. But his reaction to it and the lighting effect and the wires going white is just great. And this is the first time I noticed from the back shot of it, his knees are like he's collapsed in on himself to support your own weight. If you would have, if you were to collapse, that's how what your legs would do, because otherwise our bum would fall straight to the ground.
Yes.
So it's like he's supporting his own self there in this completely dazed state, like a puppet.
Yes, that's right.
That was really good, and it, again, reaffirmed the power in that scene of going, nah, he can do this at any time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
In most things, I guess there's moments where you're going, I want to see those elements. But in this case, that was the one thing that still held true to me. And it was just like, I really liked that moment.
Yeah.
But that moment for Mike, I felt like could have been saying, even if he just got smashed around a bit more or mortally wounded. Bill Halloran there, like Bill Halloran from the first Shining. He gets hit by an axe, but he doesn't die.
Yeah. No, that's right. That's right. So and that was a great moment as well, like you said, where Richie kind of falls under the spell of the deadlights, and then we get Eddie kind of coming out, and he's been given this thing, like this spear thing by Bev,
one of the fence paling things.
She kind of says like it kills monsters, and he's like, really? And she goes, if you believe it. And so, like, this is his turning point where he realizes that, he's
got to stand up.
He can stand up, and he does this whole. I forget what the lines he said, but some kind of courageous line as he then throws the spear.
So if it's from memory, he literally just says, "If you believe it, if you believe." He says, "This spear will kill monsters if you believe it, if you believe it." If you
that's
believe
right.
It. I don't know. I was hoping for something a little bit more inspirational than him just repeating the fact, believe. Yeah. Like, if he was repeating the fact, like, this kills monsters, like, that's sort of the chant, it feels like.
Yes.
Otherwise, he's just going, hope, 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 hope. But regardless, he chucks said spear, and it hits true, and Pennywise starts vomiting up some yellow shit, and he's not liking it.
He doesn't like it, and he starts
drops
to
Richie. He doesn't break his legs. Could have had a compound fracture there. Again, could have raised the stakes. It's rated R.
And then he falls back over, doesn't he? And
that's right.
Starts to kind
of impales himself on the one of the shards of the rock stuff that's been made from the volcanic magma. I don't know. Yeah, that spewed out when the meteor hit the ground.
That's right. That's right. And so he's starting to look like he's defeated at this point. And then Eddie goes to rush to Richie's side and says, I got him, I think I got him. And then all of a sudden, big spiky thing goes through him, a bit like Alien.
Yeah.
And pulls him up as one of these tentacles, and he's been kind of basically pierced through the abdomen.
Richie.
And
He got impaled as well.
Yeah. And then gets thrown to the ground. And then they all kind of follow him, have a big R&R moment. And then they kind of realize that if they make him small, they can, because he has to be small in order to fit through the crack to get out. So they realize he has to change his size. So they think, all right, if we can get him smaller, we can beat him. And they try and lure him through the crack, essentially, but he beats them around there, stops them from getting through. And then that's when they go, well, there's other ways that you can make someone feel small.
That's right.
Let's
and they
call
say
it
that it's backed
name.
up from the Native American people who had said that all living things have to abide by the size they inhabit, or something like that.
That's right.
Yeah, which is interesting. I guess I understand that, but from a cosmic entity that can make you that can shapeshift and or make you see anything and experience anything, I don't know where the boundaries of that necessarily lie.
Yes.
But MacGuffin got to get MacGuffined.
MacGuffin gets MacGuffin.
Yeah, but from that, yeah, exactly. They then bully him pretty much to death.
Yeah.
By saying he's just a pathetic little clown.
And he turns into a little claymation dude.
Yeah, which again I loved when he gets all small, but then he rests his head against the back of the meteor and it squishes out like a pancake.
Yes.
Love that moment.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
And they start kind of basically like realizing. And again, this is the bit I mentioned earlier, like where Mike takes the lead here, and he's the one that actually pulls Pennywise's heart out of his chest.
Yeah, where in the book, wasn't it Bill?
I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
There's a bit of a blurring of lines a bit.
They're engaging in the ritual, but he pushes through something, or he perseveres, and he ends up like tearing into the thing, doesn't he? Like literally walking into the size of the deadlight monster.
Bill does, did you say?
Yeah, but
Bill. Kind of, although he goes on a bit of a intergalactic kind of leap through, and he meets the turtle and then comes back again.
Yeah.
And it's Richie that pulls him back from, because he goes into the deadlights, that's right. And it's Richie that pulls him back in the book. So very different tack. But yeah, they basically kind of pull out the heart, and he says, "Look at you all grown up." And they squeeze his heart.
And squish it. And then he evaporates.
Yeah, and then that's it. And he crumbles.
He gets snapped away like an Infinity War.
That's it. One click of the fingers.
One snap's all it takes.
He's gone. And good. Along with everything else, as it starts to crumble, and it's like, we're going to get out of here. Oh, quick, let's get...
And the deadlights dissipate.
Eddie's dead. And Richie, come on, we've got to go. We've got to get out of here.
Don't worry about his wife. They can find the body some other way.
Yeah. And then they get out of there, essentially, as the whole place collapses. And then they
get out, and Nebolt Street collapses, even though Richie's still trying to go, no, wait, let me go back in.
We can still save him.
I can still save... No.
It's no more, but we can still save him. Then they suddenly turn up at the old kind of, was it a Fielding Lake quarry kind of?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they just blindly wander to the lake and then do a very irresponsible thing by jumping off the edge of the quarry.
Again, for the second time.
But again, they're adults now. They should know better.
I know, goddammit.
Like, isn't the recovery of accidents, even if you get a broken leg, is going to be a lot worse if you're an adult.
That's it.
The weight is going to be you're going to have more velocity. Oh my God! I mean, one of them is an architect.
Just didn't think it through. They get right to the end. They've killed Pennywise, and then they break their legs in some.
And they die. They drown in the bottom because they've broken their legs, and they all can't get out.
That's it. Fucking nuts.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, they have a little swim, and this is the moment. And then Richie breaks down and cries, and they all give him a cuddle. And then Bev and Ben have a little smooch under the water. And then we get our climax or epilogue moment where
They see themselves as kids in the reflection?
No, oh yeah, they do that, don't they? First, sorry, they do that as they're stumbling back, and we see the picture of the we see the other two kids that have died.
That's right.
Interestingly, Eddie is wearing a red shirt, and Stanley is wearing kind of a cross between a red and orange shirt. Ooh. And I could only think of Star Trek. I don't know if that was intentional.
Which one's wearing the red shirt?
Eddie's wearing the red shirt.
Oh, that makes sense.
And
red shirt's gonna die.
Stanley's wearing the reddish kind of orangey shirt. So yeah.
Well, they're both red shirts.
That's it.
There's one thing I know about Star Trek: away teams.
That's it. Die. If only they knew that at the time, they would have worn different attire.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so we have that. Yeah, sorry, we have that big flashback bit. And then they kind of disperse, and then we get our epilogue where we have Mike calling up Bill, and he's written a book, and he has a letter sent from Stan, and Stan's written a letter to everyone, and basically it's Stan saying, and I get a bit confused here, but basically. Stan is kind of saying that he wrote this before he committed suicide, and it's his voice over the montage essentially that starts to play out. But he kind of said that he knew he wouldn't be brave enough to kind of confront Pennywise, so he would remove himself from the equation to give his friends a chance to honor him. Which would give them strength to fight it. And he said, but would that, and basically said, by taking myself out of the equation, did that work? Do you understand what he did?
I think I think he didn't want to fight it, and so he killed himself.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any other motivation by saying, I had to kill myself so that you would have a chance.
No, but he does. He insinuates that because like you just go, what?
Yeah.
I didn't.
It feels like
it's really odd.
It feels like it's something added because was there any resolution after the fact of that Stanley wrote a letter to anybody?
No,
like it's probably just them turning around and going, well, because someone commits suicide in the film, we've got to cover that. Like one of the things on YouTube is you can't say the words suicide, you can't say racist. Otherwise, you'll get flagged as and not get monetized. It's crazy.
Right.
So, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying that is the case, but I wouldn't be surprised if they've added that to try and add a more positive, I don't know, light to the end of it.
Maybe that would make sense. I mean, I don't agree with it. That probably makes sense.
It does sort of feel like they're covering the Hi-Ho Silver ending with his wife. With Bill's wife, with this as the light-hearted insert.
Yeah, I agree.
Then you've also got Richie going to the bridge and carving in the E, which again I thought was done earlier. Like I thought that was when they were kids. I thought he had written the R and E and just kept coming back and updating it, almost like it was still part of his feelings, as it was still alive.
Yeah.
So to then realize that he only did it as an adult sort of annoyed me.
No, I think he had done it before but the E was faded out and because he kind of went back over it.
Maybe.
I felt like that because you saw him as a kid writing something.
Yeah, but I think that was just the R and the plus. I'm not too sure because I do remember watching it again thinking that he had only completed the E when he was an adult after Eddie had
I thought I saw him kind of. It almost looked like he was going back over it, the E. Like
that's what I originally thought. Yeah.
Right. Anyway, yeah. So we do.
Ben and Bev are in a relationship too.
Yeah, they're in a relationship. That's right.
We've mentioned Mike.
Mike's just
He's on the phone to Bill. He's
That's
still
right,
in his library. He never ended up going to Florida. He mentions that in the basement. He says, "Yeah, I want to go to Florida."
Yeah.
So why isn't he calling from Florida?
Yeah. Why is he wait
That's
there?
easy to do.
Yeah,
All you
Rob.
need to do is turn around and say, "How's the insert Florida reference here?"
Yeah. What a bunch. Okay, but anyway, we basically kind of have him then driving off. He leaves Derry, and that's how it ends. Rolling credit.
Oh, good. Oh, well, there you go. There, he's probably heading to Florida.
Yeah, hopefully.
Let's say that.
Yeah. All right, man. All right, so that's the end of the movie. So what was your immediate reaction when you first watched it?
When I first watched it, I was happy. I thought it was fun. I did wish that there was a little bit more Pennywise in it, but I do understand that, especially from the miniseries perspective and from the book's perspective, there's a lot to fit into this second movie.
Yeah.
And I was surprised it actually wasn't done in 2 parts, like as in that it could have been 3 films, and possibly could have served it better. Especially seeming that it was done by the same director, and he seemed to pull off something that was consistent, enjoyable, but also kept you on the edge of your seats, even if it was just the anticipation of what was going to be happening.
Yeah.
Accompanying that with a beautiful score and what's it? I don't want to say anticipating, but again, like the sort of score that did keep you in that sort of almost Jaws-like suspense of what's going to happen next, what's going to come around the corner.
Yeah.
Obviously, in Hollywood films, you're going to get jump scares and producers adding their certain takes on things. But as a closing chapter for something that I thought was such a good film when it first came out, it delivered. I enjoyed watching it a second time, and even living it again whilst talking to you on the podcast.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. The performances were great. Great to see an adult cast. Having to fill the shoes of a younger cast and not the other way around. A lot of the times you'll cast a leading actor as the older actor, like, you'd have Amy Adams or something like that, and then you'd cast the younger actor or someone like that to come in there, and that they would have to basically try and be Amy Adams.
Yeah.
In this case, the other way around, and that was really interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, no, even just as that whole coming of age thing, to see a new interpretation of it that was so different from the miniseries as a kid, it felt more real, it felt more in your face, and I'm glad it was able to take the R rating and still profit from it. I think the film only cost $79 million or something like that to make, and internationally it grossed, what was it, 709 million or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's without China as well, because one of the things that films nowadays, will have to guarantee on is the international market and the Chinese market for their films.
Yes.
And obviously they have certain things that they don't necessarily want to condone. So some of the things of this, the homosexual graphic beat him up scene at the beginning of this would have also been something that would have been flagged, but the supernatural elements as well. But it's still, that's what I think as well. It's so good, not only that it's a mainstream film that was also enjoyable with repeat views, but also for the price that it was, it was pretty damn amazing. I think all the producers would be happy with that. But also to not have to rely on China or such a large population for getting such a good turnover is a very, very good thing, and I think it's going to lead to a lot of new jobs. Obviously, Finn Wolfhard's milking it to no end.
Yes.
But no, highly recommended. I think, especially if anyone who saw the first film, you would be stupid if you didn't see the second.
Yeah, I agree. I just to kind of echo what you said. The cast is actually very good in this. And it was, I found it an enjoyable movie too. I think, I can't remember if I said this earlier, but I enjoyed it. I think I've enjoyed it more this time round than I did the first time round of seeing it. So I think it, by that rationale, warrants repeat viewing. It's a good fun film. It's not brilliant, but I just thought, like I said, I just preferred it this time round watching it, and I guess started watching it with a bit more, less of the Stephen King rose tinted glasses, and more just watching it or appreciating it for what it was. And it did feel like it completed itself as a film. Following on from the first one, there supposedly is Andy Muschietti is supposedly working on a supercut version which combines the two together. Which will be interesting to see how that comes about.
Yeah, especially if it's just the two mashed together.
It does eventually come about. But yeah, so that's kind of cool. So as far as and now that we've kind of chatted through this, obviously everyone voted, not everyone, it won the majority vote for the best film of 2019.
Nice.
Do you kind of still agree that, or can you see why that was the case?
I can totally see why that's the case.
Yeah.
But having said that, I don't know if I would have said it was my favorite horror film of 2019, but it was definitely high up there. And it's like, besides that, I think it probably would have only been Dr. Sleep. That was probably
you like
the one I would say. But for the same reasons I like Dr. Sleep, I like this one. Even though I don't consider Dr. Sleep a direct sequel to either Stanley Kubrick's film or the book.
Yes.
It's in the same universe, which I consider all Stephen King's, because they are. You've got a loose universe there. And I love that sort of stuff. Any way to justify any story that I'm seeing is more fun. So to do that sort of thing, but seeing it and going, it's relating to a homage of something that I did appreciate in the first, and it's just re-highlighting those elements. Yeah, I thought it was great, and I can absolutely see why a lot of people would be turning around and saying that it was an enjoyable experience, because it wouldn't only be this year's film, it would also be the previous year's film, which they're allowed to incorporate as one experience. And they do feel like the same film. I think that, playing them one after the other would probably feel seamless, bar the obvious pacing of film in general.
Yes.
Which this case I had a lot of homage paying back to Hot Fuzz and the way that Edgar Wright was doing a lot of plot points in that film, especially with the sort of transitions and saying you can explain so much in just one little take, yet having Hollywood intervening with a whole bunch of cuts. It's always going to be the way. But even that, the moment of the mirror maze reminded me a lot of the 13 Ghosts, and so going back and seeing moments like that. I think that that's part of it too. It's not just the one film that people are making now. It's a lot of films.
Yes, that's right. And we can only imagine that there'll be more of Stephen King's universe kind of being explored off the back of this and Dr. Sleep as well. I think I heard that Firestarter's kind of going to make an appearance.
Ooh.
Which would be interesting to see that one come about. So we'll see.
And I would, even just on that, I was going to say before about the different ways of seeing souls being destroyed or something like this. We get a lot of jump scares or teeth rolling out and jumping at camera, and it's not as scary. But in what was it, Dr. Sleep, you have the moments where they're sucking the shine out of people, and you can see it's like an ethereal air. But it would be interesting to see how filmmakers can try and push that next element of going, how can we communicate a more gruesome supernatural death, and I don't necessarily just mean ghosts, but as in the way of making, I don't know, something more traumatizing, because at the moment sound effects really seems like you don't need to see it. Seeing it is just going to distract you more. If you can hear it and you just know what's going on, that's really the fear behind it.
That's right.
It's all horror, cosmic horror. I love it.
Indeed, it'll be interesting to see where they go with it and what they do next, and as they explore the different elements that horror can bring. It's definitely next year's already kind of got some kind of interesting ones on the horizon, which I'm not going to go into now because we've been waffling on for ages. But definitely horror is still at the forefront, and it's the genre that seems to be leading the way at the moment, especially outside of the Disney franchise stuff anyway. So
which is good. Again,
cool.
Even recently, I saw, what was it, Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And, I don't know, for me, after loving The Hateful Eight, I felt like he was one of the only Hollywood filmmakers who really takes his story his own sort of way. And so it was surprising that I didn't necessarily get too much out of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So it's hoping that he's not also turning towards that sort of idea of having to produce things and going, okay, we'll change things because they're saying it. Or maybe he just wants to film feet.
Maybe. I mean, he's only got one more left to do, though, isn't he?
Oh, does he? Is he then he holding up his reins?
Yeah, it's because he always said he was going to make 10 films, I think, or whatever it was. So I think the next one will be the last one.
Well, let's see what he does when he wants another holiday house.
Yeah, exactly. Cool, man. Well, thank you for joining me on the podcast for the what was voted best horror film of 2019. It's True.
Thank you.
On behalf of the podcasters. Do stick around as this is obviously our last podcast of the year, but we are still rolling on with our Wes Craven films. So do stick around for those as we discuss the middle years of his career and some more of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, of which actually there was a nod to that in this film where they walked past the cinema at the end and it was screening Nightmare on Elm Street 5, which was called The Dream Child, which is about the rebirth of Freddy. So that I wonder, is there an actual insight into the rebirth of Pennywise?
In the disembodied corpse of Eddie.
Yeah. Let's do it.
And then when he comes up, he sings "Hot Patootie, Bless My Soul."
Nice. All right. Yay. And on that note, thank you for listening to us as always. For the Surgeons of Horror, I was your host and lead surgeon for this podcast. My name is Saul Murthy, and I was joined by Richard Lovegrove. Until next time.
Well.
Goodbye.
Bye.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.